Hello YouTube, this is Marauders here, and this is the GuliKit King Kong Pro 2 controller. So this is actually a pretty decent Nintendo Switch Pro controller alternative, because it has most of the Switch functionality. First of all, very importantly, very useful, is that it can actually turn on the Switch wirelessly. So there are some third-party wireless controllers that can't do that, but this can actually do it. And of course, this actually has gyro support, so you can have that all-important motion control aiming in the FPS games. And the major surprise is that this controller has amiibo support, so you can use amiibos with this controller. That is actually a pretty big surprise. Okay, and if the Switch isn't your only gaming platform, this thing also supports you can use it on multiple platforms like the PC, Android, and iOS. So yeah, it's a pretty so you can just buy one controller and use it on those other things that you play games on if you have them. But the main claim to fame, the main thing that makes this King Kong Pro 2 so special isn't the fact that it has the ability to do recording of your motion, of your control motions, but rather from the fact that this joystick, this controller actually uses magnetic hall sensors for the analog joysticks as well as the triggers. So the thing is that if you use, instead of a normal potentiometer, these magnetic hall sensors will not drift in the even though after a long time of playing. It also helps that the joysticks have these metal rings around them so that their movement is always smooth. That is actually a pretty nice touch. And on their website, they also say that these buttons are special mechanical buttons. So they are supposed to last longer and have that better tactile feeling. So I've been using this for a few months and I have come to some conclusion on this. Uh, the surface of the controller is basically like the Xbox Elite controller. It's like this rubbery substance to give you better grip. But the problem is that this rubber feel, I feel that like the Xbox Elite controller, if you put this in a drawer for a long time and don't use it, this surface is going to become sticky just like all the other rubber things because of the moisture absorption. And for the face buttons, even though they say it won't get stuck and it's very good and it's going to last better than other membrane type buttons, after a particularly hectic session in Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge, whoa, this button was definitely getting stuck. Okay, so I really wanted to know what was happening to it, and that's when I found out that actually I can just pop this button out and see the so-called mechanical switch at the bottom. And well, I don't know if it's the same for everyone else, but when I first popped this out, I noticed that some of the side flash of the button, it wasn't really cleared off cleanly. So I decided to try and shave it off, and well, while it does seem to fix most of the problems, but during a very hectic session of Shredder's Revenge, and when you press it a lot, you can feel it like still getting a bit stuck sometimes. But I really don't know whether it's on the button or the button itself. The main thing is that this shouldn't be happening because this isn't a cheap alternative for third-party controller. Okay, this was supposed to be one of the hallmarks of the of the controller, so it shouldn't be having problems. The other thing that we don't know is that even though they claim that these Hall sensors are very good, and I think a lot of people have already been talking about using Hall sensors for analog replacements, we really don't know how well these things work in the long run. Maybe they will still fail, but it's just that they don't fail that quickly like a normal potentiometer. So it's hard to say whether the fact that they're using Hall sensors can really justify the price you're paying for this. And the thing is, I really would have recommended this controller without hesitation if I wasn't having problems with the buttons, because really it gets really frustrating when you press a button and it doesn't want to come up. Okay, and this controller isn't the cheapest controller out there. We have to note that this King Kong Pro 2 is more about the same price, and maybe it's a bit more expensive than the 8BitDo Pro 2. So the 8BitDo Pro 2, the difference is that the 8BitDo Pro 2 cannot turn on your switch wirelessly. It might not work with your iOS devices as a controller, but it works with Android from what I tested last time I tested. And but the difference here is that I've been using this for so long, the buttons still feel great. And I mean, these are analog sticks. I guess it will drift eventually. But the main thing is that, to me, the Pro 2 has extra side buttons, which is why it has that Pro name in it. Whereas the King Kong Pro 2, well, it's just a normal controller. The Pro name probably comes from the materials used. So, I wouldn't recommend against it. It does seem to still work, but it's kind of disappointing that it does have this kind of problems with it. So you have to decide between these two controllers which one is better for you, and yeah, it's not an immediate hard say to say that this is better than the 8BitDo Pro 2. Okay, so this is Marauders. I will see you all in the next video.